So there's no doubt that the Titanium Hanger talks about KO products, knocked off product, knockoff Masterpiece Transformers, knocked off mainline Transformers, but there's a reason for it. I'm actually on the pro side of the KO debate, and every time I have this discussion about the KO debate, people talk about the infringement that the third-party companies perform. Today I'm going to talk about the third-party intellectual property infringement, IP infringement. I'm going to talk about the similarities between that and knockoffs. Although it's easy to sit back and say that they are completely different, they're not so different in the eyes of the law. I'm also going to talk about how I personally wouldn't be this deep into Masterpiece Transformers if it wasn't for knockoffs, that alternative of knockoff product. I'm also going to talk about Hasbro's own issues with infringement. I'm going to talk about Takara and how I think Takara doesn't really care. We're going to talk about all this stuff coming up. First, I want to share my quick story of how KO's got me deeper into Masterpiece. And I want to say, starting out, I got the MP01 at Walmart. It was normally $60. I got it on sale for $25, and I really liked it. I ended up picking up a Megatron for $55 off of eBay from a guy who was really mad at eBay for delisting it because it didn't have the orange tip. The guy was like, he lost his tip. I was like, bro, that's a personal problem, but thanks for the deal. And then I subsequently kept up with all the US releases every year, the $35 for a Starscream on clearance. I got, for $15, I got Skywarp on clearance. For $40, I don't know where I got my Thundercracker. I think it was $75 to get this Grimlock. And through the power of Toys R Us, buy one, get one half off, I actually got the Rodimus. I actually got two Rodimus so I could trade one. And it turns out that the Masterpiece line was going well. Enter the Carbots, which were smaller than everything, and they were $60, and it was the same price as MP01. No diecast, no weight behind it. You're asking as much as Walmart was asking for MP01. So from my standpoint, I didn't even buy into the $200 imports at the time. $60 import was much cheaper than the $200 imports, but the same price as what I got at Walmart, and more than most of the ones that I have purchased didn't work for me. About a year later, we started seeing knockoffs. Knockoffs started showing up on the scene, and I started trying out these Carbots. I actually liked them, and I thought, wow, this is so much better than what you would get at the aisle, on the toy aisle at Walmart. This is vastly superior, and in my mind, I was just associating these smaller, little figures as Walmart toy aisle figures, but they weren't. They carried the Masterpiece that the bigger ones had, and so I was all in. I started getting everything as it came out as KO. I kind of went too deep down the rabbit hole, but then eventually I found out about Amazon Japan and all of that stuff, and then I got into third party. And then if I didn't get into third party when I did, I'd be behind the 8 ball right now, and I wouldn't be paying that late tax, so I probably wouldn't be as part of this as I am. And if it wasn't for KO, all you'd be hearing me talk about is Star Wars. And I do have a Star Wars rant video coming. If you can't figure out what I'm irritated with the Black Series, why I'm irritated with it, and kind of want to quit it, this picture should tell you the whole story. But getting back to this debate of KO versus third party, you can obviously look at this and say, okay, on the left is a KO that is knocked off. They stole the design. It's illegal. They're copying Takara exactly one-to-one for the most part. Sometimes they make a few changes here and there, but they steal the design. Fans Toys, on the other hand, every single piece of this figure was designed and created by Fans Toys. But it's still IP infringement. It is still stealing the identity, because nobody would buy this figure if it wasn't for the fact that it was associated with a property that was created by Hasbro back in the day through the 1984 cartoon that ran through 1988, and I don't know how long in Japan. You would not be wanting to buy this if it wasn't for that, or even the comics at the time. That is why this is IP infringement. So let's talk about intellectual property infringement. So IP infringement, intellectual property infringement. We're going to read this here. It is the infringement or violation of an intellectual property right. There are several types of different intellectual property rights, such as copyrights, patents, trademarks, industrial designs, trade secrets, and therefore an intellectual property infringement may, for instance, be one of the following. I view what third party does as design infringement. Now, obviously, I'm okay with it. I'm not trying to litigate this. I'm perfectly fine with it. Because if I'm fine with KO, I'm definitely fine with this. But we can't go around saying that third party does no wrong, because they do. So design is a form of intellectual property right concerned with the visual appearance of articles which have commercial or industrial use. The visual form of the product is what is protected rather than the product itself. The visual features protected are the shape, configuration, pattern, and ornamentation. A design infringement is where a person infringes a registered design during a period of registration. So they have to own the patent during the time, and they can't let it expire. They can't let their trademark expire. The definition of a design infringement differs in each jurisdiction, but typically encompasses the purposes and all that stuff. So what this is basically saying is that if you copy their design, then it is illegal. And that's what third parties do. Promise not too much more dry stuff here, but a knockoff product, that they are often illegal even if the company is selling something that only slightly resembles another item on the market. Only slightly resembles. See, they call it a knockoff, and they refer to like a handbag or a Fendi bag or whatever, and they call that a knockoff, or Michael Kors bag. See, I think the market for handbags is vastly larger than the market for Masterpiece Transformers. We get in our own zone here, and we think about what's going on with Masterpiece Transformers. It's probably 1,000 times, 100,000 times larger than what's going on with our Masterpiece Transformers. But anyway, this often leads to litigation in civil courts. The likelihood, however, that a lawsuit between a legitimate manufacturer and a knockoff manufacturer will be successful generally depends on the specific intellectual property rights over the product and how similar the items are. Again, a knockoff is going to be a trademark infringement also. Trademark infringement falls under IP infringement. So it's all the same thing. Whether they stole the design completely as a KO, or whether you borrow the design and it was design infringement, it's still going to fall under IP infringement both ways. Of course, I'm not a lawyer. I'm just a random guy on YouTube. I'm definitely not your lawyer since I'm not a lawyer. But this is how I understand this situation going down. And technically, it would be illegal. If we were in the United States and we made a KO product, we would be shut down instantly. And so that's how you know that this stuff is not truly legal. So how does this stuff work for you? I talk a lot about KOs, but I really don't talk about selling KOs. So when you sell KOs, you sell a KO to maybe someone on Facebook. Maybe you could sell it on eBay. But I know that with my example earlier with the MPO5, I actually got shut down selling a knockoff product on eBay. I kind of find it's illegal to sell a KO product yourself. You can't sell a KO transformer on eBay, say KO, they will shut you down. Now, sometimes they won't. Sometimes you sneaks by. There's millions, if not billions, of items for sale on eBay. So maybe you could sneak it by. But I know I got mine shut down. I called them up and I asked them why. And they said it's illegal for you to sell that. So that frustrated me. You also have to think about end of use of KO. So at the end of the use of KO, when you want to sell it, what are you going to do with it? Can you legally sell it? Now, when it comes to third party, you might be tripling your money when you go to sell it. You just throw it up there on eBay, and for whatever reason, I've never had a third-party figure get delisted. I've never had any trouble with a third-party figure, but when it comes to KO stuff and trying to sell KO stuff, man, they're all over it. So the next thing I want to talk about is Hasbro and their own struggles with keeping their own names, their own copyrights, and I looked up a bunch of stuff. I remember through the years there were some characters that were named funny, and then I started reading that it was because they lost the rights to the name. They had to get the name back. One of those that I recently looked up, they said it was this Motor Breath, and of course they got the Motor Master name back. By the time they got to Combiner Wars, they got the name back. They were able to use it again. So that's my understanding. I actually read that in a forum somewhere, and I tried to come up with a better example. I'm sure you guys can put a better example of how Hasbro lost the name somewhere in there. Even Hasbro, who owns the franchise, struggles to even keep the names. That same forum also was talking about Hot Rodimus, which I always thought was weird. It's called Hot Rodimus instead of Hot Rod. And so that is another issue. And they also talk about how they changed names around to like Autobot and then their name, and Autobot Jazz instead of just Jazz, and a whole lot of different issues where they don't maintain the rights and the trademarks for every single name because they don't know they're going to go back and use it. Enter Hasbro going after Wei Zhang. Now, we know that there have been many raids on KOs, and I even made a video saying that KO was over, but they found ways around it. And I thought Wei Zhang was safe. I thought they found a way around it. They make enough changes to the design to not be one-to-one and exact. They also usually KO oversize their stuff. They're usually making bigger, which they did not do with this figure, and they should have. They were playing with fire, but they did make a lot of changes to it. But I understand it was some sort of a movie Bumblebee that put them under. Is that what it was? Or maybe it was a Cheetor? I don't know. I forgot the one that put them under. But at the end of the day, Wei Zhang makes changes to it, alterations. It's not completely 100% one-to-one, and they went down. Hasbro even went after Zeta toys. I gotta tell you that this whole situation with Zeta, people misunderstood where I was going with this. I was talking about this possibility. The possibility of Hasbro going after third-party companies because of this. Because Zeta made such a big stink in the middle of the HasLab campaign, and Hasbro wasn't going to sit by and let that happen. And with Zeta bringing so much heat on the third party at the time, it was scary. I was truly concerned we'd lose MMC or X-Transbots or Fans Toys. So let's talk about MMC, X-Transbots, and Fans Toys. These are the top of the third party right now. A lot of people could argue about Make Toys, and they did great work. There's other ones that did great work. But these seem to be the ones that are the most active right now, putting out the most figures, sort of, and are really dialed into the Super G1 look. But MMC stands out from X-Transbots and Fans Toys in a way. Now, I've always had a problem with MMC and how they don't look super G1. They look a bit stylized. They kind of go their own way, and they don't seem to care. They don't care what I think, and I wasn't super impressed with this Mirage, the Sphinx. Everyone else seemed to be in love with it, but I knew a better one would eventually come. But when you look at this, you go, guess what? There's enough difference that they could probably argue in court that, hey, it's our own design of just a race car. It doesn't match exactly. Look at all these differences, the different points, the different stylization that we put into this. It is not the same character. So that could probably stand up. You get to X-Transbots Neptune. I mean, that's obviously Sea Spray. There's no doubting that that's Sea Spray. They did such a good job with that figure. It looks so great. He's not quite as pot-bellied, but at the end of the day, you look at that and you know it's Sea Spray. And you put a picture side by side and some normie would be like, yeah, that matches. And definitely with Fans Toys. I mean, Fans Toys has gotten so close to tune accurate in both modes. It's outstanding. I mean, the transformations aren't outstanding. A couple of them are decent, but most of them are terrible. But looking at this, the price you pay is a bad transformation to have excellent looking figures. But what's the price we pay if Hasbro or Takara takes them to court? I think technically Takara would be the one taking them to court, but we've seen Hasbro skip levels and go straight for Zeta. Now I want to quickly get into why I think Takara just doesn't care. They're not worried about it in the slightest. Now first off, their first production run, I am convinced, makes a profit. They make all their money back from the design, they make enough profit to call it a day, and then they have this design shelved for future re-releases multiple times over, multiple recolors and all of that. And I actually have a theory about why they did some pluses, why they don't do some pluses. That's going to be coming more on that. Hopefully I get some evidence soon. But looking at this, they just don't seem to care. And one of the theories is that they're making money off the KOs. They sell their design to a KO company and they let them knock off their product. They give them $5,000, which probably ends up being, what, 500,000 yen? Is it something like that? 500,000 yen? Yeah, that's a good deal, man. That's a good deal. And then these KO companies don't have to do any design work. They just run with it, and they put them out, and they put out thousands, if not tens of thousands of figures to run the price down and get them cheap. So another KO theory that's out there is that we've got what they call the Saturday night special, or the after hour special, or the third shift special, or the extra production run, which to me is the purest form of knocking off an item. That's just straight up theft right there. They're probably even using Takara's plastic, Takara's paint. And I think that's what happened with this. Now let me tell you, there could be another story behind it. But what if the factory just kept on making them. They say, oh, you want 5,000? Boom, we hit 5,000, and then we're going to have another shift come in and just keep running it all the way through. Or heck, we all just stay 2 hours late and make another 1,000 ourselves and sell them and have pure profit. That's a possibility. That's a theory I've heard thrown out there. That was the Saturday night special theory. But Black Arachnia convinced me that Takara dumps some product on a third-party company. Not third-party as in a fans toys company. Third-party as some no-name company out there that's looking to give them some sort of scratch of money for whatever reason. Now, there could be a lot of reasons. If Takara performs this practice, there could be a lot of reasons why they do it. Maybe they do it simply because there's a defect in the product and they don't want their name associated with a product defect, a known defect. And sort of you buy a KO, you know there's a possibility of some sort of defect. That could be one, because mine, something didn't tab into the back right, but everything else was great. The box itself is 100% exactly the same as the original. I compared them in person, exactly the same. And then the figures, I don't see any difference. So the KO, plus it came out like a couple months later. It usually takes 10 months for a KO to come out. So all of these factors make me think that the KO that was being sold was actually an official product that for whatever reason was dumped. And maybe they dump them to make it look scarce to keep the price high. Who knows? All these knockoff theories and ideas are simply just that, theories and ideas. I absolutely cannot substantiate these claims with any real proof, but I've seen a lot of people put it in my comments over and over and over and over, so I figured I'd just chime in on it. So at the end of the day, the higher than mighty people out there that buy third party but shun KO might find that there's not as many differences between the two. As different as they are, they share some similarities. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Are you for or against KO? Do you not care at all? Do you get upset and think that KOs devalue your Takara? Because I think Takara devalues Takara with what they do. And we're going to get into a little bit of that in the future. Let me know what you think. Like, subscribe to Dear Hanger. Out.